All right. So, yes.
Happy Tuesday,
Happy
children
Tuesday,
of the lawn.
happy Tuesday. Let's see who we got in the house.
We've got all the children of the lawn in the house.
All the children of the lawn in the house.
Well, most of the children of the lawn.
Most of the children of the lawn in the house. That's a hit, I'm telling you right now, right?
Yeah.
Put some, put a good beat to it.
And, the new season of Only Murders in the Building.
Only Children on the Lawn in the Buildings.
Starts tonight.
It starts tonight?
Yeah.
How are we going to balance that? Or we're going to wait?
We're going to wait.
Okay, so don't tell us, because we're going to wait until we can, rifle through it. Because we just started season 4 of Peaky Blinders for the second time.
There's only 6 episodes.
And, man, let me tell you, it's like watching a different show. Once you know who everybody is, then you go back to the beginning and you see how everything happened, and you forget that, he killed your brother or stabbed your wife in the heart or shot you in the face. You forget about that stuff and everybody's friends again. And then all of a sudden, Alfie Solomon shows up and he's like, Tommy, Arthur.
He stabs you in the back and then you shoot him in the face.
Son shot me in the fucking face. Right? That's all right there, Tommy. We love Alfie.
Yeah, we hated him the first time.
We were ready to cut his beard.
Every time he came on, I was like, ah.
And the scar on his face, man.
That's all right.
Arthur.
We like him now.
He's got such a way of telling you you're screwed. Mate, when the bull comes off the hill and steps on your face and he's just one of those.
Yeah.
So let's see. What's the plan, Stan? Well, we have, this is an interesting thing. I remember going to NAMM, and NAMM, for those of you who don't know, is it's the boat show for instruments. And I remember going to NAMM for the first time and seeing the Chapman Stick. Now, if you've never seen a Chapman Stick, take a look at it, because how do you play that? Who knows? This is a similar thing.
What is
the guitar viol? What?
What is a Chapman Stick?
I don't know. I mean, it's a stringed instrument, and the guy who invented it plays the crap out of it. But, I guess it's people trying to invent new instruments, or trying to take instruments to another level. Like there's a 7-string guitar, which I guess can have an extra lower string on the bottom or a higher string on the top.
What Mark Wood did with
yes, exactly.
The violin.
Yes, but it's different because it's I don't know. We're going to find out. But I love the fact that people are still changing the landscape, because drums are still the same. It's a surface that you strike over a resonant shell.
Tony Levin plays one.
What?
Tony Levin plays one?
I guess he does.
Well, the thing you were talking about.
The Chapman Stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But how he learned to play it, I'll show you later. It's very interesting. It's just a very strange, I guess I can make it happen over here for you. Let's see if we can find Chapman Sticks. Okay. Chapman Stick for sale. Oh, Chapman Stick bass, it says. Now that's interesting. Okay. There it is. Let me get a nice big picture of it for you, and you can tell me if you've ever seen anything like this. Hang on, here we go. Because I, for one, never have. Check that out. That's, that's the Chapman Stick. Home of the Chapman Stick. There you go. 12-string, 36-inch scale tapping instrument in hardwoods or bamboo. I had never, Paducah. I had never seen one. And all of a sudden, the guy showed up at NAMM and he's playing the hell out of it. But I guess if Tony Levin plays one, there must be a bass one, right? I mean,
Well, you just said bass when you were reading it.
well, yeah, right, but I don't know that it was designed as a bass, or I really don't know. I see what's his name. Are there Steve Adelson plays?
Thank you, Laurie, and welcome back. Now all of our children are really here.
Yeah, we feel better. We had a little anxiety working, but here you are.
Here you are.
So anyway, that's the Chapman Stick for you. I knew you'd be impressed with that. It's just, like I said, it's cool that somebody is like inventing new instruments. The newest instrument in the orchestra is the saxophone. I think that's only about 100 and, I don't know, one of the sax players could tell us. But all the rest of that stuff was invented.
Okay, I got, Sue has a poster he signed with the stick, and Gail said Tony uses a bow at times with it.
Well, that's what the guitar viol is. It has, well, you know what? I'm going to let Jonathan explain it to you, because see, you never know. The drummers are always going to be late or on time. Guitar players might not show up.
Right. And Sue says he toured with Peter Gabriel and played it.
Tony Levin did?
Yeah, this is who they're talking about.
Wow.
That stick thing you're
Well,
talking
I'll have to look at it. But I mean, I remember when it wasn't there. I remember seeing it for the first time. And that's what we're going to talk about today with our guest, Jonathan Wilson, who is about to enter the capsule.
That's right. And he makes guitar viol.
Guitar viol.
Guitar viol.
Oh. Come in. Go ahead. Turn it. Turn it.
Hello.
You're sideways.
Oh, I'm sideways.
There you go.
Like the movie.
All right.
Now you're right side up. But let's give it one more quarter turn and see if it puts it up full screen.
One more quarter turn. Let me see.
No, the other. Oh, there it is. There it is. That's it.
That's it.
We got it. We got it.
How about that?
Yes, perfect.
So we were just talking about, first of all, welcome. Hi.
Hi.
Nice wood you got there, John.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, this one's got a bunch of carbon fiber and composites going on too, so it's a mixture.
I'm a big fan of carbon fiber. Well, yeah, just
in there too. See?
that's amazing. They are. They're how many strings?
What's that?
How many strings?
There are 6 and they're tuned like a guitar.
Oh, they're so E-A-D-G-B-E.
Yeah, so basically, this is kind of my little shop beater demo model because they all kind of leave, and so this one stays here a little bit. But it's basically, it's too like, there's your garden variety D chord there, right?
Right.
So we've got 6 strings, but we can play it like, guitar or
So that's going down. That's going
like
down.
That
That's
sounds
beautiful.
good. Yeah.
That's going down to what? The register of a cello or a viola?
almost. Okay, I'm cheating a little bit. I've got my low E strings down to a D, because I kind of live there, but it's really
Right.
okay. And it's got 24. They look like frets, but they're really like stopping points because this is one piece of this.
Wow. So it's like a scalloped guitar neck.
Kind of. Now, there's a story behind it, though. I'm going to step off camera just to get a couple things, but they're basically like I've been at this thing for about roughly the last 30 years, but in the last 20, I've been actually actively building them. And the early ones had fretboards that looked like a guitar, but they were kind of like that. And then eventually I started hybriding them with wood and like jewelry wire, embedding them in. But see, that was problematic because I started going over to cello strings, and the cello strings would get munched by these steel frets. And so I went over to, this is a fingerboard that I devised where I was able to get the exact curvature that I want, because I was limited with these. Because the frets wanted to fly out. They were just like, you can fight physics only so much. And so I started casting these with a carbon fiber layup inside. And so this has a nice low lubricity, high lubricity performance surface. So I can get it precisely the way I want it every time. And it also, it enhances the playing. So they've evolved quite a bit. So some of my earlier instruments had the frets on them. Last ones of the last 6 or 7, 8 years have had these.
Well, what's the, this begs the job, the question, fret job. Some guys just take their frets all the way down to the board, and then they put in those those double-sized nickel frets or whatever. Yeah. And other guys, like I think Richie Blackmore had a scallop neck, and Yngwie had a scallop neck. So how do you deal with, what is that, like a resin or a carbon fiber? So it doesn't.
Well, actually, so when we're dealing with steel strings, like on a guitar, that'll wear the frets. That'll wear nickel frets. And I've been sort of a guitar shredder my whole life too, so I kind of lived there too for a long time. But what I found was the opposite with cello strings. They're fragile, and these will eat the strings up for lunch. So it's the opposite problem.
Are cello strings round wound or flat wound?
They're flat wound, but they have sort of a what I call a damping layer inside of them, and they're a lot more fragile. And you can go to Guitar Center, maybe get a set of strings for $10. These are like a couple few $100 a set. So So you want them to live a while on the instrument, and.
So you're saying the string wears out before the fret?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it a hexagonal core in a cello string?
I don't know. You'd have to. The ones I'm using are D'Addario helicores, which the reason I like these strings a lot is they have a fast bow attack, but they have a little bit of a pluckability to them.
Well, yeah, I get that. I totally get that.
Okay,
and these were originally. I think it was Ned Steinberger who kind of engineered or was kind of on board with this stuff. It was several years ago. Like I'm going to go back to like 2010. We were auditioning strings in a studio, Benny Goodman's old studio of all places. Wow. John Zelle and I think it was Gary Leonelli. And I did a session that day. It was kind of a separate thing. I was sort of rused into a session with Marcella Detroit, who did stuff with Eric Clapton that day. But anyway, we were auditioning strings. We tried Piastras, we tried all these different brands, Tomastics, and it's just these won out of all of them. So we just kind of stuck with it.
So they're flat, and then the first 3 flat, and the last 3 are just wires.
No, they're actually all wound. The high E string can sound kind of harsh if it's not.
Because when you're plucking it, it sounds more like the sound of a violin or pizzicato on a viola. That's interesting. So they're all wound.
And a lot of the composers out there, some of these guys are using these sounds in a lot of cues too. These kind of things. Kevin Kiner does it a lot lately. A lot of them out there really, but it's been sort of a thing. They've been exploring the non-bowed sound of my instruments as well. But yeah, they're out there a lot. Just a quick sidebar though. I think we have a common friend.
Yeah, I heard. I've been in suspense. Did you want to ask? Did somebody have a question?
Yeah, well, one of our viewers, Richard Wing, is a guitar player, and he says, that's so cool. Where do I get one?
Now you see, that's worth stopping the conversation for, right?
Yeah, well, there's it's I had a website hack, unfortunately, so some of my domains got a little munched, and I've had to nuke them for a while. But togamanguitars.com,
Togaman.
Guitars.com, and Togaman Guitar Vials on Instagram and all over the place. So if you Google me, you'll find me pretty easily.
Okay.
But it's called a guitar vial, Guitarviol. I think who was it? It was on Chuck Conrad was on your show last week.
Yeah.
And he called it the toga bass, and it's actually it's not a bass, it's a guitar vial.
Yeah, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting. So anyway, Richard Wing has his. I'm dying.
I'm writing togamanguitars.com.
We got
Yes.
it.
Yes.
I'm dying to know about our mutual friend, or am I?
Well, he played with you in the John Entwistle band, Devin Powers.
Oh, Devin!
And Devin has a half dozen of my instruments.
What, really?
Yes.
Well, that makes sense. That makes total sense because he does all the cues and all that. That's amazing. I actually called Devin today, and I'm waiting for a call back. That's wild.
Yeah.
How do you know Devin?
Well, here's the thing. So my backstory really fast, and maybe it might help, but for the last almost 20 years, 15 years, my clients have been 90% in the upper 90% film and TV guys. And out of maybe close to 400 of these instruments, that's a pretty good batting average. So your chances of going on Netflix, Showtime, HBO, and hearing one of these is pretty high. Random. I mean, it's gotten to the point where my wife can pick it out and go, honey, here's another one, and I'll Google it and it's the right composer. So yeah, it's generally, that. So obviously, Devin's been in that TV composing, film for, thing for a while. But this instrument does have a background in the sense of, it's really a modern arpeggione, which was a 200-year-old an instrument from 200 years ago. It was invented by Johann Stauffer, who was a guitar builder in Austria, and he died in the poorhouse, by the way. But his apprentice was C.F. Martin.
Oh,
now,
who, by the way,
headstock here happens to be a Stauffer pattern I started adopting. Guess where Fender got their ideas from? Guess where everybody in the 20th century got their ideas from?
Wow.
Guys, one of the most copied Stauffer. Now, I did sort of an original design of everything else, but it has a backstory in it, and the instrument kind of flopped back then because it was the wrong century, basically. It was, they had gut strings on it. It was very quiet. It wasn't nearly as powerful as the violins were. They kind of fell out of fashion. And there was viola da gambas before that, which were actually similar fourth tune fretted instruments that were popular 500. So the 500 years ago, 600 years ago, the Jimmy Page thing happened a long time ago. And in Spain, you had vihuelas and lutes. And they had two different kinds of vihuelas, vihuela de mano, of the hand, and of the bow. And so what happened was the Moroccans came over with their bows over the Strait of Gibraltar, and they started taking them to their early guitars back then. So that kind of stuff started happening back then. So for the same reasons that electric guitars are popular, that sort of Hendrixian, the complex kind of sound you can get with a bow, it's kind of like a Hendrixian feedback without the Marshall amp.
Well, I noticed something. Go figure. Stringed instruments in the orchestra, violin, viola, all of the, cello, etc., those are fretless, right? And I noticed on one of the necks that you showed me, part of it was fretless.
Oh yeah, there was a point of time when I was starting to do partials because it was very hard bending it to the right, because as you go up the fingerboard, it gets more curved. or to be optimal, it does. And
Oh,
unfortunately,
the radius of the neck changes?
yeah. So it's not a radius. It starts down here. It steepens as you go up. Actually, I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab some.
Okay. I hope you guys are sucking all this up. I'm a real sucker for this stuff.
Okay, there's some electric, there's some electric violins out there. Some people that have, the guitar frets on there, and the problem they're having is they get this limited amount of, geometry.
Right.
But it's hard to see, but it really does.
I see it. Yeah, I absolutely see it.
Curve a lot at the end, but it starts off more flat, like a guitar.
So the grade of the neck increases in the middle, which causes the arch to widen.
Yeah. Well, my joke is it's got hyperbolic paraboloids with Pythagorean divisions. It'll blow. It's very mind blowing when you're having to do it, because I'm trying to make a straight line
Right.
where the strings lay, but I don't want it to be where. See, like what happens is if the strings are like this and the fingerboard's like this, we have this middle section that has a deficit. So you press a string down and you're going to hit the other strings with the bow. And unfortunately, a lot of even good violin builders out there haven't gotten that really completely dialed in. So I went to a lot of trouble I literally set up the bridge first, and then I reverse engineered what the fingerboard should really look.
I mean, that I understand that. I truly do. Especially what I got it. What made it ring the bell for me was when you were talking about bowing the strings, because so let me ask you this, because the idea is to play individual strings, and that would be the radius of the bridge, which keeps the bowing section on an arc, so that you're only going over one string at a time. But how many strings? I know you can play two at a time. How many strings can you play at a time, or do you have to go up on the neck to get chords?
Well, there's a couple things. So one thing, just real quick, is that on the bass side, it's more curvier because the bass strings are a little more slack in their tension. So when you press the bow down, you'll have a problem with the neighboring string if you push it down. So to compensate, we curve it more. So like a cello is a little more curved on the lower two strings than the upper ones, for instance. Violins are a little more straight up, there's nothing crazy about it. But then they're dealing with four strings, so it's not so bad. On the other hand, when you're dealing with the bow, this particular bow here is an Incredibow. It's a pre-tensioned bow that I use. It's outward arched.
And is it still horsehair, or is it synthetic?
No, this is synthetic. This is carbon fiber. And it was originally made by a guy named Ed Wilcox, he passed away, unfortunately, back in 2007. His daughter still makes them for me back in Arkansas. And he played the musical Saw. And he was eating up horsehairs like crazy. So he wanted to have something that worked. And what happened was he went and made these bows, and people at Fiddle Fest were like, hey, these are pretty cool. They're nice and light and everything. And for me, it was almost too light in the sense, because the tip, I wound up having them adding a little weight to the tip, so that when I do, it's really hard to, without the thing, having a little bounce to it. So I add a little weight to it. But now viola da gambas, I should point out, have a bow where they don't have a frog on it, which is the little tension thing that are on the frogs, but they take their fingers like this and they adjust the tension so they can have it fairly slack. And when that means is on the fly, and by the way, you can apply that same bow to this instrument, it's no problem. You can loosen the bow and you can press down and maybe get 3 or 4 strings.
Ah, okay.
But by tightening your finger, you can tighten the hairs on the bow and you can get individual strings a lot better. So,
wow, that's interesting.
And so those guys back in the old, early music days of viola da gambas, and I think they went up into box time really. But what happened was the violin family, because they were more tuned, like to their size frequency wise, like a tweeter or a subwoofer or a mid range. So they kind of really got them dialed in to where they were louder. And of course, the louder animals won. And the viola da gambas were a little gentler in sound. But I've also overcome with a few of those things. I mean, I've had to engineer them for tighter strings, more taut, because so we have a little more power with this thing. But really, it's just, I think there's upsides and downsides. Like with the upside with this is a guitar player can pretty much know where he or she is at. And you could do like really fast scales though in the violin tuning, like fifths, it just lays down. But chords are not so good on violins and cellos.
Yeah,
It's like a mandolin. It's real chunky. Those little chords are just like very limited. Mm-hmm. Whereas with this, we can just play a full sounding chord.
Wow.
So stuff that would be really very difficult to do on violin, we could do a little easier. And what's also fun, people assume that, okay, we got frets, but we can also. So we.
How are you doing that? How are you doing that?
Okay, think about playing slide guitar, for example. When you play slide guitar, you're not pressing the slide down to the fret.
Right.
That becomes the fret itself. Well, what happens is the bow sort of forces what would normally be a plank, but it's sort of like if you press it down enough, like a slide, we could, have that slide in there. So it's almost like you could combine the two. So you can be really expressive. And we can also get into rock star vibrato, or I'm kind of grabbing it now.
Wow.
So, we can get a little bit of that guitar vibrato going, or you can kind of learn how to do sort of a cello vibrato or whatever. So depending on if you press down, you're engaging the frets and stopping points. But if you're pressing down halfway and not really doing it, and you're bowing, you've got your cake and eating it too, kind of thing. But I think really it's just been sort of like a real platform interface for guitar players it could be a guitar player's second instrument.
It's amazing. Can we get a look at the bridge?
Sure.
Oh, okay. So it's just, I see. So it's very much like a regular
right
violin bridge. It's
yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Let me grab one real fast.
This is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
she said she goes to sleep.
Here, this is better for visual, I think.
Oh, yes. Now, why? That's interesting. Why are the little cuts in the side? They look.
Well, it's really it gets really more geeky than that, but like it's literally like this part here in the middle. These two little things are actually what's holding it together.
Right.
And it's really funny because I can hear it when I'm on the bandsaw cutting those little things. You can hear the sound of it changing, like it's more freed up a little bit. So it's really engineered to move a little bit, And one of the things that makes like a guitar really suck for bowing, not just because the strings are down too low and you can only go sideways and you can only like pick up one little string on either one. It's that, and especially with pickups, like a magnet pickup, for example, let's say my fist is a magnet coil. And if you have a string going like this, it's giving it nothing. Now, if you pluck it suddenly, it's doing something. So like when Jimmy Page does it, he's probably got a lot of gain going on. And then but if you notice, they're like when the Wild West was one or one of those particular clips, when he lifts the bow, the guitar gets incredibly loud. It's like a whoo kind of effect because the strings return to their normal, the elliptical pattern.
Resonance, yeah.
But when it's like exclusively forced into this horizontal motion, it's funny. I was a guy in here earlier, Scott. Basically, I was explaining to him that I was back at the NAMM show, I don't know, in the early 2000s. I had this whole thing I called BSHIT, bowed string horizontal intercept technology, which is what I was doing with the electric bridges. To each bridge saddle had an individual pickup on it, and it was designed to catch the horizontal motion. And that's really, to be honest with you, there's a lot of violin pickups out there. There's some of them are good, some of them are horrible. Most of them are horrible.
Well, let me ask you. Do you know Mark Wood?
Oh yeah, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a longtime friend, and he does that Viper, and I'm just blown away by that thing. And this is, there should be a whole orchestra with these things.
Well, Mark and I ran into each other all the way back in the 90s. So I mean, we've crossed paths several times. Sometimes we will be at a mutual paint body finishing vendor, and it'll be like, "Oh yeah, tell Jonathan I said So in passing, but no, he's just as nice of a guy as he seems on camera.
Oh, I know.
I love what he does. I love what he does with the kids and getting them all rocked up and everything like that. So, all good.
But it's amazing to me that you guys have gone off he's got whatever, a 7-string violin that goes down, I love the innovation. What you're doing is very much, he's taking it, you're going like into history, and you're doing the classical renovation, which is so awesome. I mean, it's, to see because I grew up in orchestra, so I remember all the different instruments, all the string instruments, and it's amazing to still, after all these years, learn more things about those instruments. It's incredible what you're doing. And
there's a lot of bleed over too. I mean, I've got, I don't have a lot of like rock star people out there, but a lot of the people who play them are former rock stars, that have gotten into film and TV. One of them is Tyler Bates, who did 300. So my instrument in 300, when that came out, it was a big deal.
I remember with that film. Yeah.
That was like the kick to the hornet's nest back then. So he's worked with like Marilyn Manson. He's out there touring right now with the guy from Alice in Chains, Jerry Cantrell.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's still got the old electric. Now my earlier ones were electric solid bodies.
So what did you do? You did a piezo, or did you actually put a pickup?
Yeah, exactly. There were individual pickups inside.
Right, you said in the bridge.
Yeah, and a whole suite of electronics. Now, honestly, those things are a logistical nightmare for me to build in some ways. I've actually had a lot more people responding to the acoustic electrics, but I might revisit those in a different form. For example, these I've got a pattern for as acoustics. But I found that they feel so good. If I add a little weight to them, I can make them a solid body.
Sorry, if you add a little weight to them, what?
You throw a little foam in them, and suddenly you got, okay. Which is good if you're standing up and trying to do a Jimmy Page thing, and it's
right
out far enough. Because the problem with a solid body, especially a thin body, is you try to bow it, but it's like you're running into your leg, or you have to be Santa Claus. You have to be really portly to have it out here. Or you have to stuff a pillow behind it, or you put it on a stand. So I think that's after 30 years of battling it, I got one for you. Hang on.
It's funny that he says that, because I saw Jimmy Page do that.
That's me back in like the 90s with
wow,
the early model.
Wow, so, check that out.
So that was that. But what happened was that instrument, because the scale length was longer, like a guitar. I was physically getting injured playing. And so I think by Y2K, I went back to the drawing board. And I was initially going to go out and make my own career with it. But what happened was that was interrupted by, Hollywood's interest in my instrument. And so I wound up with an unexpected career being a luthier. So I never thought I'd be a dirty bearded luthier growing up, but there you go.
Well, it's interesting that you said that, because I've had so many people on the show in such a short amount of time, but the gentleman that invented the wah-wah pedal had a similar experience. Everybody wanted it in their movie. you know, all that.
Del-
Sorry.
Was that Del Casher? Or who was-
Yes, exactly. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah. Nice.
Elvis guy.
Man, I mean,
He played in Elvis's
Yeah,
movies.
yeah, he played.
Yeah.
He was incredible. I mean, just think about, and I can draw the parallel because I hear, you know, I know about Devin's composing and all that whole thing. And I know how important sounds are to him. You know, he's always about the new sound, and so it makes total sense to me that he would use that. And I guess I got to get one now.
Well, you know what the funny thing is too is they are a real sound designer's dream too, because you can take it away from sort of musical applications and you can make these horrible little, you know, kind of creepy sounds with it, you know. And so it's really, you know, so you've got those little things that just, you know, come out. But really, it's like I think it's just a familiar space for a guitar player to have as a second instrument or to be able to play stringed instrument parts. Like, and you know, honestly, frogs and toads can play together too. I mean, you could also have your violins and stuff go along with this thing just fine.
Well, that makes sense to me because every time I hear you even strum it or pluck it, it has the timbre of a stringed instrument as opposed to, you know, what you would hear on an acoustic guitar. That's probably due to all of the wound strings being flat wound strings, but it has that percussive, I really don't know how to explain it other than, you know, it sounds like it has that attack, that pizzicato, you know, strings have. It's very interesting.
Well, there's a lot of what I found was even with believe it or not, even with the solid bodies, it just had to do with the distance of the bridge being elevated and higher away from the body. And also, you know, even if you put normal guitar strings on, normal guitar strings are horrible for bowing. I did use them for the first several years. I used Diodario jazz flats for a while because you'd think, oh, wow, you know, guitar tuning, guitar strings, what can go wrong? But really what happens is the strings are very, you know, can be very bright. So if you notice that most bowed strings are very dark sounding, but they brighten right up into the bow. Well, now let's take an already bright string and brighten it up even more. And the other thing, even the electric, a typical electric rig is not necessarily the best thing for it because you're like going, okay, I can't turn the treble down far enough. I can't get the presence knob down far enough. And so I'm loading it with like a capacitor just to kind of calm it down a little bit. But then there's also there's all these other little things. So you're adding frequencies that weren't there before. But yeah, the physics of it. So the other thing that's kind of interesting is when you're bowing it, like I was saying, it's a side by side. But in an acoustic, for example, like the treble foot of the bridge is kind of like a hinge, and it rocks the bridge this way, like that. So on the bass side, there's a bass bar that goes up and down with it, and so it's got a pumping action.
Really? On this instrument?
And that's what moves the top up and down. Where when you have an acoustic guitar, the strings are so close, the closer the better almost to the top, right? Because it's right there at the top. And when you strum it, it's really locked in. But when you start raising the bridge, you start changing the sound a lot. And so that's what happens, you know, when you put a taller bridge on, like an arch top guitar with a tall bridge kind of thing, then your attack and everything's going to change along with it. And so your timbre is going to change with it. But for, like I was saying, the reason why we got the gingerbread man with a little shackle on one of his feet is because it's rocking that bridge. On the treble side, there's a sound post inside that it rocks on, you know, so it's kind of
inside the body. There's inside the body of the
inside the body. There's like a dowel. You could probably, I kind of purposely let this one be seen, you know, just because it's kind of there, but you can see under the treble foot. And so what happens is the bridge will pump the bass side when you move it that way with the bow. So there's a lot of physics going on here.
Man,
there it is. You know, for the kids and, you know, taking class, this is a physics laboratory.
Wow.
I mean, basically, there's a lot to be, there's a lot of physics in music and all that kind of stuff, right?
That's
And
incredible, man.
And by the way, a lot of that stuff I just told you about, you'd be surprised at how many people, even in the strings and guitar world, professionals don't understand that. But that's really what's going on. And so when you get that knowledge, you go, okay, you understand why that design didn't work out so well.
Well, it's interesting. You made the point about, needing to be Santa Claus in order to do the Page thing. And I was saying before when you went to get something, I saw Page do that quite a few times, and he was always leaning way back when he did it. Now it makes sense to me. I thought he was just posing, but now it makes sense.
That's funny too. So I get people who grab these instruments, and they're probably a little, rightly so, they're probably a little bit, scared of it or whatever. But what happens is if you bring it in too close to your body, your arm kind of seizes up and you don't have a lot of room. And ultimately you'd want it out further so you can do all this, right?
Right.
So when people say, well, I'm having trouble bowing the low string, it's kind of hard. I've said, rock out, dude, push it out, and there you go. So when you see viola da gamba players play, these guys from the 1600s, 1400s, 1500s, but they're like, when you see them hit those lower strings, they're doing that, with the instrument. So it's like, rock out, man, get into it.
It's got a beautiful tone to it, man. That's really amazing.
Thanks. Yeah.
Does the top make much of a difference, or is that really cosmetic?
It does matter. Everything's in the top as far as I'm concerned. I mean, yes, the whole wooden instrument can change things up a little bit. There's little nuances there, but really, the way I construct these tops nowadays, used to be I would make them out of, have some broken ones here. There's some spruce, right?
Oh yeah, uh-huh.
Okay, and I'll tell you, there's nothing on. I mean, that's greatest stuff in the world. The only problem is it'll expand and contract with humidity. It'll crack. It's fragile. I just had an instrument broken the other day that I had to, redo. That had a spruce top. I have one in my foyer that was broken. It's got one of these tops on it, but the back and sides are broken. Well, sure enough, he dropped it. And so now it's really made a case for me to make out, like making like a Ferrari, basically, right? And this top here is one that's, you can see the carbon, it's been pulled out of the mold, so it's not trimmed yet. But it's, it's got a really good.
And is it an arch top? It looks like it's an arch top.
Well, it is, but I vacuum laminate it in a mold. So it's like the original is carved. Now I've carved them. When I did the spruce ones, I would bend them under pressure and then carve them upon installation, which is completely backwards than what a typical violin builder would. Problem is when you're taking a chunk of wood and you're carving it out and then you're carving material away, it's not as strong actually.
Well, yeah.
So when you bend it, it's like taking a piece of paper and cardboard and bending it, it stiffens up, right?
Right.
So I would stiffen it up and I can go thinner and louder with the spruce. So I'm very proud of my spruce tops that I've done. And I think I've actually taken them to another level. But again, the problem is climate and, humidity, lack of humidity, and one day it could be in a humid day in New York and the next could be in the California desert. So and so I really wanted something that would really take it for time. Now this has balsa. This has got a balsa core in there. You can see the core pattern.
Uh-huh.
And, it's got the bass bar in there. We've got to have the bass bar. That's sort of what carries that little pumping action I was talking about there.
Right.
And, it's sort of a blend. I mean, I've found a certain sweet spot of them, certain amount of flax, certain amount of carbon fiber. It's like taking coffee and putting a little cream and sugar in it. I can kind of dial in. And so I can also use very pretty wood.
Yeah.
Now that I'm not limited to the spruce, and it's very thin veneer. But even the veneers change the sound a lot. So I have I use this and maybe another variety called Bossy Cedar. These have a little more attack and a certain mid that I like a lot.
That's beautiful. I mean, I love the wood, and I think again, that's just wow. Wow, it's just amazing. But let me.
Well, they
let
want
me.
to know where he's based out of in the U.S.
Yeah, where are you in
Okay. I am out in Valencia, California, which is near Magic Mountain, which is north of Los Angeles. So a guy who's out in Hollywood or Sherman Oaks area could be here in 20, 25 minutes.
i.e. Devin Powers.
Well, Devin, I think he's now in
He's in Nashville now.
he's
Yeah,
in Nashville now. But I mean, yeah, he was not too far away. And
yeah.
when I had my shop in Fillmore before this, and that was kind of a different story. We had there's a website called Packing House Creative. You can read on there a little bit, but we were a cluster of luthiers in the bottom basement of a packing house that was 100 years old. And so we had like all our own shops, but we were like this nice little, neighborhood community or colony or whatever you wanted to call it, of luthiers and craftsmen and various things. And that kind of came to an end with some some city bureaucracy and that kind of stuff. So I wound up here in 2019, right, before the pandemic broke out and all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
So, there's nothing like doubling and a half your overhead right before an event like that.
Trust me, I've been there in a different situation, but I've been there. Listen, we're gonna take a quick 30-second break. I'm gonna play my obligatory ad, and then I'm gonna come back and ask you the questions. Did Angus give you the questions?
I think so. Yeah.
They're easy. Believe me, there's not. Oh, you don't have to do that.
No. I was pondering a few of them, and then anyway, do your ad.
Yeah, and I'll meet you back here in about 30 seconds, and then we'll go into that. And did he tell you about Free for All Friday?
I think I heard a little bit about it.
Everybody comes.
Watch episodes.
Yeah, it's just like, bang. It's everybody comes in and it's all music talk and it's just a lot of fun. And it'd be good exposure for the instrument because there's a bunch of composers that come in and out. So, you never know. All right, I'll meet you back here in just a couple of seconds. And here we go. I have too many buttons, not enough time.
Yeah.
It's like magic, and there I am.
There you are.
Here I am with my stars and my glittery stuff. So, are you ready for the big quiz now?
Sure.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, this is the Phoenix Sunrise. It's one of little rescue job I've been doing on one that got wrecked. So
That's beautiful.
Wow.
making it a piece of art,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate that. Okay, so make yourself comfortable.
Now the people are
Okay.
loving you.
Yeah.
They said this guy is awesome. So much great info and very
we never get to hear
informative.
stuff like this.
Yeah.
The reason that I did this show was to open up the door. If you and I were at a NAMM show, right? And I was whatever with whatever drum company or how NAMM goes, and we ran into each other. I mean, maybe Devin introduces us, but this is the same conversation that we would have if we were sitting out, where they have a lunch outside in Anaheim, or that's the same conversation we would have. And the thing about it is, people never get to hear this stuff. They never get to, appreciate the journey that you've gone on with this instrument.
Your microphone's not on.
Okay.
Okay.
It's on now, right?
Yes, it is now.
Too many buttons, not enough time. They don't ever get exposed to the journey. I've had quite a few luthiers of different origin on, guys that do different things, and it's just an amazing thing to me, and it's so old school, earthy, you know, the like acoustic analog. What can I say? It's great, and I just appreciate it so much. And you know, so
Yeah.
there you go. So now I'm going to ask you the life altering questions.
Okay.
And once you answer those, the tattoo artist will come to put the answers on the back of your neck for the
Okay.
rest of the time. Your wife's going to let him in. And or maybe your wife's going to do it. I don't know. Anyway, okay. You've been on the road. I know you've gone from one show to another, one way or another. Favorite place to eat on the road? It could be the cafeteria at NAMM, but it could be Schneiderman's in Austria. Favorite restaurant on the road?
You know, the road is a relative term for me because I really haven't done, but we used to play in Santa Barbara a lot. And even when I'm not playing, my wife and I still love taking a road trip to Santa Barbara. So one of our first stops, really, when we go there, if it's a breakfast thing, we go to Anderson's on State Street.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Fresh squeezed orange juice, the best coffee ever, best, you know, whatever you want, like Eggs Benedict or whatever, that kind of stuff. But other than that, I think my favorite restaurant is the next great one I'm going to discover. So we have it's sort of a thing. We just like to go, let's find the next place.
Yeah, excellent, excellent.
Right.
And do you go for traditional cuisine? You're looking for fusion, or it's anything goes?
Oftentimes it is fusion, but we like everything from Mexican food to China, you know, whatever. And, you know, basically the old pub and grub kind of stuff, or really whatever it is, steakhouse, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's the other place in Santa Barbara we like, it's called Chase, and it's also on State Street. But
Okay.
again, there's so many places out there. It's just, you know, if you're just going, okay, I don't want to make any rough, big
But
decisions.
you hit the one. You hit the one.
That's right,
Anderson's.
Yep.
Because I saw you. See, what I was looking for when I put the questionnaire together, I'm looking to, you know, to get that feeling like, oh, when you go back and you think about it, and the fact that you would go to Anderson's regardless of whether you were in the area or not, that makes it that's exactly what I was looking for.
Mhm.
I'm not looking for some snooty fancy place. I'm looking
No.
for,
We used to drive
you know,
45 minutes for pizza.
we used to,
Sure.
our
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
pizza was 45 minutes away. And,
And we
you
lived
know,
in New York.
we'd order it to go,
Yeah.
pick it up. We'd get there, we'd order it, you know, from the car, pick it up, and it'd be gone before we got home. So,
Yep.
you know,
New York pizza is awesome.
yeah,
yeah.
well, this is
was
Johnny's
great.
Pizza on Lincoln Avenue in Mount Vernon, and it
Mhm.
is, you know, it's a treasure.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so
here we go. So
we have
now
Anderson's and
you're
Santa
playing
Barbara.
out, right? And
Mhm.
lots of playing out, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The set list comes out. There it is. Favorite song to play live. What song is that?
Well, we were just doing originals, you know, pretty much. So I think it was probably a toss-up between Star Sailor and Places I've Known that was on a CD that we did. It was just a little indie kind of thing we did.
Yeah.
We just played Borders and played the art museums and stuff like that up there in Santa Barbara. And really, it was just a side hustle gig because I was busy building these things. So it was really more, you know, just sell a few CDs, give the guys bands some dinner and give them some bread, you know. But really, it was more. There was a couple of those, you know, but I don't have any real live songs that.
Well, that
Sort of have
counts.
my
You know, the couple of
go-to.
originals, all right. Originals, okay. What's the song that you never want to play again, ever? I don't ever want to play that song again.
One of mine or just in general.
Anybody's.
I'd rather not play Freebird or Mustang Sally or.
Somebody else
Very good.
said Mustang
Somebody,
Sally.
we had a Mustang Sally
Don't
the
get
other
me wrong.
night.
I cut my teeth on Leonard Skinner, and Steve Gaines was one of the greatest players ever. He was in a different time, but you know, it just there are some things that are cliched. Sweet Home Alabama, I'm a little tired of too. There's a lot of stuff. It's like the last 50 years, the same 50 songs played over and over again. Classic radio, selling beer and Viagra. You know, it's fine. You know, and I'm all down with that stuff. I like. You know, it's funny. I like rediscovering old psychedelic bands. You know, the obscure albums that nobody's really pulled off the shelf for a while. I like that.
Captain
You know,
Beefheart.
I like the restaurant thing. I just want to discover that gem that's laying around.
That's beautiful, man. That's
And it was
you know,
another
yeah,
luthier. It was
Yeah.
Chuck Conrad that said it the other night that he didn't want to play Mustang
Yeah,
Sally.
Chuck. Yeah,
Oh,
another.
did he?
Yeah,
That's right.
There you go.
But our number one,
Okay, but the number one is still Brown Eyed Girl.
23
so, you know.
people said
No, Brown Eyed Girl, I got to tell you, I do love that song. And, you know, I play it for my wife because she's my little brown eyed girl.
Mhm.
Costa
And
Rica.
you're not sick of playing it?
Yeah. So,
Exactly. So there's, you know, there's some stuff that hasn't really annoyed me into the ground yet. I'm okay with it.
Okay. Well, no, we got your answer. Mustang,
Mustang
Sally.
Sally.
That's bang. You know, that's a good one. And right on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're a guitar player and a guitar viol player, right?
Uh-huh.
But if those options were off the table and you could absolutely shred at any other instrument in the world, what would it be?
I'm going to say harp.
Harp, classical harp, or
Yeah, I want to be the dude wearing a toga on a cloud playing a golden harp. No, just kidding. But no, but you know, I love harp. It's very peaceful, and it's something that appeals to me too. Is, you know, I'm a guitar player, and I have a little classical chops somewhat, you know, but I love the, you know, just feel of strings, and for me, the piano and all that kind of stuff, that's sort of, I'm not going to say low hanging fruit. I mean, I have great respect for great pianists, but the harp just has a sweet sound, kind of similar in some ways to the pluck sound.
no,
Mm-hmm.
a very
But
similar.
I love the format, and I think it's just wonderful.
My best friend's wife was a harpy, or is a harpist.
Harpist.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, harpist.
Yeah, harpist.
Isn't that what it's called?
Harpoonist? I don't know what it is, but she plays the harp and does it professionally and does it really well, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful instrument.
Yeah, she plays weddings and stuff.
Yeah, but you mentioned piano. You know the difference between a pianist and God?
Is that a Billy Joel question, or is that?
Oh,
God doesn't think he can play the piano. Take your time.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And
it was a joke.
it's a joke. It's a
I was
joke.
trying to stay off those. You know, I was trying to be really disciplined. Okay. Yeah.
There's no discipline here. Whose show do you think you're on? This is not. God, this is a madhouse. This is a controlled explosion.
This is
Got
fun.
it. Control demo.
Yeah, it's all fun. All right. So here's this I had fun when I created this question for the questionnaire, and you can play harp or any other instrument that you like in this band. But if you could do one show live with anybody or any group of guys, living or dead, who would it be?
That one's probably the one question I just come up empty on an answer on, and I can tell you different ones for so many different reasons. I mean, you know, I could go to all right, I'd love to jam with Hendrix, you know, or whatever, but I mean, it's just like, on the other hand, maybe I want to jam with King David. I don't know, you know, it's just, I have no idea. So,
Well, he played the harp.
well, yeah.
He played it for Saul, as I recall.
Yeah, I just, you know, something I haven't really heard a lot of.
Yeah, he did.
It's like you were saying, like, you know, two strangers meet at a NAMM convention and strike up a conversation. Sometimes it's just that next meeting that is the magic one, you know. So
Right, sure.
I don't know. I'm just not as so heavily into the nostalgia of it or anything like that, but I do love a lot of the rock and roll and stuff from the 60s and stuff like that, but I mean, not, you know, exclusively either. I'm also
Right. So I mean, in this particular band, you can have King David on harp, you can play guitar or guitar viol, and then you can have Hendrix. I mean, think about that now. This is
Sure.
you know, go out there, man. So, and we'll get, let's see, we'll get Entwistle to play bass because, you know, you've got, you know, he's waiting for you.
oh,
And I will throw in my chops as a volunteer drummer. How's that work?
sounds good. Well, I mean, I think it's very remarkable, by the way. It must be I would have to ask you the question. I mean, what's that like? I mean, seriously, you're stepping into the shoes of, let's see, Keith Moon and Kenny Jones or whatever his name was after. But you're basically you're just the next in the lineup. You know, I think of guys like Robert Plant after Zeppelin. It's like, okay, he gets a guy named Robbie Blunt, who I think was an amazing guitar player. And you don't hear from the guy ever again. He just disappears and plays in the pub because he didn't want to be famous. He was just like, let me out of here now.
Well, listen, I mean, that's a whole nother story. And, yesterday, I don't want to go backwards or digress, but John passed 20 years ago yesterday. That just blows my mind how much time has gone by since then. And playing, I'll tell you just real quick, playing with John for me was in some senses, it was absolutely surreal. And in another sense, it was absolutely like just totally what was supposed to be. I'd flash back and forth because I've been blessed with great musicians in my life, not with that kind of fame, but certainly guys that were innovative and just monster players. And that was the part of John that appealed to me the most. It didn't hurt that he was the bass player in the Who, but what he did and what I do musically, it mixed, and we got along as people. So it was really quite a few moments of sheer musical bliss there. He was a freaking genius beyond words, and he would have loved this. He would have had 8 of them as well, believe me, and in every color, because he would have loved that.
Yeah.
As a collector, he would have gone nuts. So
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, it is. I mean, timing is just crazy. I mean, people assume that Jimmy Page would want one of my instruments. Like, well, I never got the call, but it's like at the same time, I never, I haven't chased him. It's like the right people are attracted to it, and the right people hook, connect, and it's like I don't think that I would like to think that John Entwistle didn't think of you as another Keith Moon clone. He was like playing, with Steve. So there you go. I mean,
yeah, no, and that's really the way it was. It wasn't one. It was never one against the other or one more than the other. It was the time in our musical, our musical meeting that we both needed what the other one had at that time, and that's what made it work. I don't think I could have been Keith Moon in the Who in '64. I don't think I should be Zach Starkey in the Who in 2004. I did my bit with John the way I did it, and I was blessed and very fortunate and very grateful to do it. So
yeah, well, I can imagine. I mean, I wonder if it's crossed Devin's mind. It's like, oh, gee, once upon a time he was playing with Pete Townsend. It's like, but I think there's something to be said though about just letting the chemistry be what it is and enjoy that, and I like to think of this kind of thing as a different box of crayons. Well, you're just given a certain set of colors here, paint something with it.
Well, I can guarantee you, I can't guarantee you, but I can tell you 99.9%, if he had seen and heard that, he absolutely would have had one. I don't think he would have had the patience for a Chapman Stick, but that he would have gone nuts over. I mean, he had I got him a PV Cyber bass because he could play drums on it. It was just incredible. But anyway, listen, I'm going to waffle on all night. You are more than welcome to come in on Friday and continue the madness.
Okay.
I want to, Jonathan, it was a pleasure having you here.
And I got to tell you, everybody, all of our regular viewers are saying what a great show. They really thought you were wonderful and they enjoyed it. You were fun. So there you go.
So yeah, and that's what it's about. It's about hearing and it's about new experiences. And this was a new experience for me and for our fans. And I thank you very much. This was enlightening and fun and geeky and all the shit I like.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, I'm tickled to be a part of anything that's like this. That you.
Well,
guys
we'll do it again, to be continued.
What you do is very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool, man.
Yeah.
Very cool, and thank you for sharing it with us. And we'll be looking for you on one of these Fridays. I'll have Angus reach out, and listen. It's,
come in for 5 minutes or the whole time.
You can come in for 5 minutes or spend the whole hour, whatever you want on a Friday. It's a free for all.
Mm-hmm.
fun.
It's fun. It's fun. Well, listen, man, I'll let you get going. Thank you so much for being here. I'm enlightened to another level, and I love. My favorite takeaway was the headstock. That's my favorite. So thank you for that.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Beautiful. All right, man. Thank you again. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Bye, Jonathan.
All right.
Take care, Jonathan. Thank you.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he was great. All right, yeah, cool. That was more stars. I'm a Yankee Doodle dandy.
You got something hooked up to that.
I got all kinds of stuff hooked up. That was as
he
cool
was-
as it gets.
Yeah.
And you know, I didn't know who, because Angus said you guys have a mutual friend or a mutual acquaintance, and I'm thinking, oh, you know, could that be?
Could that be? I would have never guessed it was
I would have
Devin.
never guessed it was Devin, but it makes all the sense of the world.
Yes.
Because he really, you know, I mean, he's that guy. He's that guy that does that whole sound design thing. And I mean, it's all about the sounds with him. So, anyway.
Okay.
How cool
so,
is that?
Tomorrow night,
Tell him about it.
Anything Goes Wednesday.
Anything Goes Wednesday, which means, who knows what that means? I don't know. What
Means anything goes.
It means anything goes. So, anything doesn't go, but you know how it is. You've been here on Wednesday, right?
Yes, they have.
Well, man, thank you, Jonathan. That was amazing. Jonathan Wilson, and the guitar viol, and go check that out.
Yeah, I put the site up on for them
Yeah,
to
so
see.
we got it out there, and there you go. Tomorrow's another day. So, if I don't see you in the future, I'll see you in the pasture.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, kids. Thank you.